Hello, and as we continue with our series about the check test and part 3 test, etc., we're currently the lesson planning group of the series. And I'm going to look specifically at the one, did the trainer identify the pupil's learning goals and needs, and why it's important? Okay, for many years I've sat in the back of driving lessons where, whether it's a standards check or a part 3 or just a standard driving lesson, I sat in the back and the instructors basically hello to the pupil. Right then, okay, we know where we're going today, aren't we? Yeah, okay. And there's a sort of a general conversation, and off we go, tootling off down the road. And I'm thinking, what are we doing today? We don't seem to have given the pupil any plan. I remember one that really stands out on me was an instructor who went off and basically said to the pupil, off you go, and the learner seemed to drive off. Reasonable standard learning. There was a little problem with the clutch there, I thought, a bit abrupt, no blind spots really being checked as they moved off, but they seemed to be able to drive the car anyway. The instructor seemed to be not really paying very much attention to the learner at all. The learner came to the end of a road and turned left, all on their own. It was a little bit weak, mirrors were a bit lapsed, etc., but they seemed to be able to do it. Down the road, and we took a right turn, and off we went down the road, and we were pulling away when, the instructor themselves was really paying very little to the attention to the pupil. In fact, the instructor was actually paying a lot more attention to rolling today's roll-up cigarettes from the glove box than the actual pupil. At the end of the session, etc., I remember asking the learner, the instructor, how did the lesson go? Well, she was rubbish, wasn't she, really? She's not very good, etc. I said, I'm a little confused as what you were delivering today. What was the subject? He was, well, it's a driving lesson, isn't it, mate? Yeah, but what part of a driving? Well, just driving, isn't it? Just driving. I mean, they just drive around, don't they? I said, well, when you were doing your training, you were doing things like the goals, the aims and the objectives. They don't want all that crap, the guy said. And I use his own words, so apologies for the language, really. But they don't want all that, he said. Well, actually, yes, they do. The goal of the objective, the aim of the objective, is what sets the little bite. Learners need to learn in little bites, really. They need to have a plan, etc. So the DVSA, seeing this, they knew this went on all the time. They actually put a subject there to tell you that you need to identify the pupil's learning goals and their needs. So what is the goal for the lesson today? What is the objective? What is the one part of this pupil's progress that we're going to deal with today? And it needs to be realistic. There is a section which I'm going to do later on called the GROW model, which I push you to use, except that the GROW model, the goals, realistic, options and way forward, we'll talk about in another thing, but you need to look at what is it you're actually hoping to achieve today. The great thing about this is if you set this objective, it's measurable. If you say that by the end of this lesson, we will be able to reverse the vehicle into a limited opening on the left, or reverse left, then you need to know that the pupil will be able to do that. And that's what you do. And at the end of the day, at the end of the lesson, you can tick this off on a pupil's progress chart. And a pupil knows, I can do that, I've done that. We know that the progress is being made. We are transferring the skills of driving one bite at a time, bit by bit. They're taking each bit. And the great thing about that is also a learner using a record card can tick them off themselves and see where they are. The goals will change and the needs will change for each learner. I'm using a reverse round the left because typically this was one where historically some learners would struggle with. If you had a learner who you thought, this learner might struggle with the whole of the manoeuvre in its whole, then you could think about this learner and think, well, maybe I could just set them a goal of one particular part of it. Maybe I could get them to, by the end of this section, or you will be able to reverse up to the point of turn. And then what you do is you teach them a bit about reversing up to the point of turn. So again, hopefully at the end of that session, they will have achieved something, and that's better than maybe not achieving the whole thing. And then the next section, and the next section, and then of course you can put them together. We do it with junctions, really. We don't say to a learner, by the end of this section, you will be able to do all junctions. We might say, look, by the end of this section, you'll be able to emerge, or you'll be able to approach a junction, or by the end of this session, you will do roundabouts, or we'll do traffic light control junctions. We break them up, and it very much meets the needs of the pupil. We need to think, what does this pupil need? What does this pupil want? Now, we do client-led tuition. So we sort of get the pupil to choose, really. And this is where, using the GROW model, goals, then the realistic. Is it realistic? Let's take a completely extreme example. You get a brand new learner in your car today. The learner has never driven before. And you say to your pupil, well, what would you like to do today? I'd like to do manoeuvres, please. Okay. Now, in your mind, you're thinking, is that really realistic? Well, at the moment, strictly speaking, we don't know, But we've done a bit of research, and we found out that our pupil has never even moved the car off. So is it realistic? Well, what we would do there is you'd look up and say, well, okay, that sounds like quite a good thing. That's what you'd like to do. What skills would you need to be able to do a manoeuvre? We can break it down. So then they might go, well, I need to be able to actually control the car slowly. So to be able to move the car off and then to be able to stop it would be good. Okay. So there again, you've still got a small goal which you can do. So you could break the manoeuvre down into the sub parts, etc., and do it like that. And you can make it realistic themselves. Also looking at the needs of learners. Some learners, they have more. They're better at driving in a sense. They have greater kinesthetic or greater psychomotor skills, and they're able to progress through their lessons much quicker. Historically, I found learners who are into music or actually study music or things like that seem to be very, very good learners. And then I also found it possibly university professors and some school teachers originally, or when I first started, didn't seem to be quite so good. And I know I've seen a forum post not so long ago about this, about why can't we teach people who are educated. Well, actually later on I realized that that was not the problem with the learner, it was my problem. My teaching methods were initially more suited to people with musical backgrounds. I myself have a electronic background, etc., or a mechanical background, etc., from previous being a service engineer, but also play a number of musical instruments, and I'm quite psychomotor in that way. I can do these sorts of things. So my teaching initially went towards that sort of teaching or that sort of style of learner. So sometimes you learn later on to adapt your style of learner using VARC's learning models, visuals or auditory, read, write, kinesthetic. You learn to adapt them, and then you find that even those learners, all learners will learn better. But there is some that will struggle in certain things, etc., etc. Driving is hard for some people, but they can all learn. I think virtually nearly everybody can learn, and you meet the needs of that learner. So not just what do they want to do today, but is there any other things you need to do, etc., etc. As a whole, we are business owners as well. If a learner needs to pop home early, etc. Okay, fine, that's what the learner needs. A learner might be anxious during a lesson if they're worried that we're being rigid about the time of start and rigid about the time of leaving, etc., etc. So again, it's meeting the needs of the learner. I see a huge amount on forums of instructors who pupils won't do certain things, and that's it. Bin them is the expression I keep reading. Bin them, get rid of them. If they don't do it my way, then there's no way. I would imagine learners are probably having issues in the car. Anybody who's got any familiarity or anything knows anything about what they call Maslow's order of hierarchies, talks about the certain things that have to happen for a learner for learning to take place. And it talks about this order of hierarchy. They have to feel comfortable in the classroom. They have to feel worth, value, and things like this. So again, you know, you have to make the whole car, the whole learning environment, something that the learner wants to be in, and they look forward to their driving lessons. And if you make the learner look forward to their driving lessons, cancellations and things like that. So that's what the examiner is looking for, really. Have you set the learning goals? Are the learning goals appropriate? Are they meeting the needs of the learner? And really, is the car, is the place an environment really where the where basically you would want to be? So that's it then. That's just one of my short bites on the did the trainer identify the pupils' goals and their needs. I'm hoping this helps. Happy teaching. Speak to you all soon. Bye bye.